Okay, let's go. Hello. Welcome to part 2 of our AADA25 tutorial set for Vray rendering in Rhino. So this time around, I'm going to start working on the materials and start creating materials. And basically, we'll move on from there in detailing work and adding a bunch of nice little things to our render to make it more realistic. So right now what I have here, like those of you who looked at tutorial number 1, I have two renders, two cameras that use the sunlight, the sun, as its light source, and one that uses an HDRI image. So this one does use an HDRI image, and let me just start the render to take a look at how this is going to render out. There we go. So that's the image. And the other two use sunlight. So actually I'll start with exterior one, with this guy right here, and I'll start kind of working on it and start assigning different materials and different textures to it. And for that, I kind of need to have the overall aesthetic, overall feel of what I want to do with this building. So my concept is metal versus wood versus glass, something like that. I'll try to not use any concrete, but we probably will need to in some places, but it's going to be mostly metal, wood, glass. Well, we'll figure it out. So let's begin. So that's our view, and let me set it up so that we are using the sunlight rather than an HDRI image. So I'll just go to the environment. I'll turn on the environment so that the sun is shining. I'll go to my lights tab, and for the dome light, I'll just turn it off. So here you can turn off your HDRI. And then last thing is to turn on the Rhino document sun. So actually we don't even need to type in sun here. We can just kind of work around with these icons and turn it on or off here. So Rhino document sun is on. Let's see if I can change anything about it here. Yes. Well, can I? No. Okay. So this is bugged. Don't use that, apparently. Instead, we will indeed go to sun here, and these are the correct settings that we will change. And for exterior one, I have written down I am using 230 degrees by 23 degrees, right? So that is my azimuth and altitude for the sun. One last thing is the camera settings. For the HDRI, I use 10. For the sun, I use 14.5. Okay. Test render, just to see if I didn't forget anything. Yep, seems good. So we can kind of start working on it. So the first thing that I'm gonna do is we need to decide on materials, right? Let me hide the shed for a bit. Or no, let's look at everything, and rather let's just switch to a perspective view. So set view, perspective, and I'll just kind of in perspective view, I'll just start slapping on the materials to kind of get an understanding of contrasts and whatnot, and how everything can be assembled. So the roof is going to be the easiest one for me to work with, because it's basically the top part of the roof. There's a difference between the top part and the bottom parts of the roof, but the top part is going to be metal, right? So I'm just going to create a metal texture right now. So new material, generic, and it's going to be like, let me call it roof metal, expand that. And for now, I'll just use some sort of a quite dark color with a lot of reflection. Well, maybe not that much, so a little bit lesser. Metalness will be set to full, like 1, metalness of 1. And reflection glossiness, I'll set this to 0.6, so that it's this kind of glossy anodized material, right? So this is going to be a metallic roof, and I'm just applying it immediately. That is kind of solved. And actually, the same material that I have just applied to the roof, I will be applying it to the frames as well. So let's look at the frames. Where's the frames? Frames, there we go. These guys right here, select objects. These guys will also receive the same material. So all of the frames in my building will have blackish color. Actually, I'm thinking maybe the reflectivity could be a little bit higher, and maybe even, could I change? So index of refraction, the higher the number, let's say 3.2, the more metallic it gets. So I just doubled the number. So it was 1.6. I will do like 2.2 to just get it a little bit more metallic. The more metallic it gets, the less color matters. By the way, just keep in mind, the less color matters because you get more of a environmental reflections inside of the material. So 2.2, I think, will do the trick. So we have our frames and we have our top of the roof. I will hide the layer, the frames layer, because that's taken care of. I'll also hide the glass layer because we have taken care of it before. And for the top of the roof, I will hide that as well. So basically, I'm hiding everything that that I have fixed, that I have solved. Then we have here a bunch of walls. Do we work with walls now? No, maybe we work with walls later. For now, let's fix the environment, right? So this and this, both of these geometries, right? These two will have, or rather I can show it here, this geometry and this geometry, they will have the same material, right? So I'll just create one material. For now, it can be generic. I'll probably change it later. I'll call it ground, right? And this material, I'll just select both of these geometries and apply the ground material to it. And for now, the ground can be medium gray. That's fine. I will not be changing the ground right now. And let me just hide those so that I know that, I have already applied the material to them, so I don't need to see them. Then we have, what do we have here? We have the path, right? The path and the paving and so on. So this is going to be a little bit more subtle. I'm thinking of concrete for here. And that's like the paving around, huh? What's the, sorry, I'm just gonna measure the distance real quick. 50 centimeters, yeah, that's fine. So this will be concrete. And I'm just thinking if, I'm just gonna take a look real quickly. If I have any concrete textures here, I do. So I could use concrete textures from the file, but in this case, I'll probably just use the textures that I have in the library for now. Maybe later we'll change them if they get too much in our face. So let me just wait for it to kind of check the library and then we will continue. Okay, so I still have it, I kind of have it loaded in, but now when I took a look at the wonderful concrete materials that we have here, I don't want to use those. So we will be creating our own, right? We will be creating our own material. So this is actually a much more pedagogical way of doing it rather than just getting one from the library. So here, what I want is basically some sort of a tiling, some sort of a concrete tiling that, yeah, basically tiles made out of concrete. So let's investigate. Let's take a look at how we can do that. Of course, as per usual, Google is your friend, right? You just kind of, well, you don't Google it, but you just type in concrete tiling texture, right? Concrete tiling texture. And here you will find a bunch of different textures that you can use. This one is pretty good, right? So you could use this one, or, you know, if you just kind of look around quite a bit, you will be able to find the textures that you can use. So in terms of finding a nice texture, there's no real kind of, okay, so there is this website called textures.com, for instance, where you can find, you know, concrete tiling, you know, where you can find these concrete tiling textures, and you can kind of download them, but they are pretty small for free when you download them from free, and you also need to log in. So that's kind of a hassle. It's much easier to just use Google and, you know, find the picture that you want. There's also texturehaven.com. This guy right here, apparently the site is breaking down, but that's fine. So there is this texturehaven.com with textures, and here you can download some pretty good textures from that website, which we will do later on. But right now, I will not be doing that. Right now, I will just kind of, I have already found a few images in Google that I will be using. So the images that I found, yeah, are these tiles. So this is going to be, there we go. This is going to be the texture that I'm going to use using for the pavement, right? Let's do that. Let's make it happen. I'll start with this geometry right here, and I'll just create a new material, and I'll call it generic. Well, it's gonna be generic, but I'm gonna call it pavement tiles. Pavement tiles. And then I'll just apply it to my object, right? So what happens here, you can see that it changes color, and in your case it might not, and you can see everything else here also has a different color now. The way I kind of did it, so right now my shaded view, like this shaded preset, will show the material in Rhino viewport without me needing to render it out. The way I did this was, if you type in options in Rhino, options, and you go to, on the left hand side, you go to view, expand that, display modes, expand that, go to shaded, because that's what we usually use to model. You go to shaded, and here where it says color and material usage, I believe by default it's set to objects color or something like that, or maybe custom material, something like that. Yeah, it's custom material, right? Instead, use rendering material. Hit OK, and now it's going to show the rendering material for you in the shaded view. That's it. That's all you need to do. Okay, so now if I change the color here to red, bam, it changes color here, right? Green, bam, green. Okay, so that works. But I don't want a color, right? I want a texture. So how do I work with a texture here? Well, the long way of doing it is, long way of doing it is messing it up. Long way of doing it is clicking on the, where you have the fuse, so that's the color, clicking on this checker box icon here and choosing bitmap, and then navigating to where your texture is. And in my case, oh my God, in my case, it's here. Scroll, 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 scroll up, scroll down, scroll down. There we go. tiles diffuse. There we go, this one, hitting open. Wait for it, there we go, it's loaded in. So that's the texture and it immediately pops up here. The tiling of it is horrible, but we will fix the tiling in just a second. So that is done. Let me go back here. So you can, by the way, when you are inside of this texture, you know, and you're editing it, you can go back to the material that this texture belongs to by clicking on this arrow. And it just jumps back to the material and you can kind of see it. You can kind of see the texture being tiled, right? So that's the texture and it's not gonna look great. It's definitely not gonna look great. So we need to add a little bit more of a pizzazz to it, right? Well, the first thing that I want to see is I'm not going to be using a curved, I'm not going to be using this texture on a curved shape. So this kind of preview is not really helpful for me. So I'm going to click on these three dots and I'll choose floor, which will change my texture preview to that of a floor, right? And this is going to be much more helpful in me taking a look at how the reflections work and so on. How does this texture behave? So I'll add a little bit of reflection to it. The reflection color, just a tiny bit, not too much. Whoa, it's immediately too much. Even less. Yeah, something like that. A little bit of reflection glossiness. It's super glossy, so 0.6, something like that. So it gets only a little bit of shimmering. Actually, the reflection color should be even less. That. There we go. So it's just a tiny bit of shimmering. Nothing else to change here. Refraction, it's not refractive. Coat, it doesn't have any coat, and I haven't talked about the coat yet, and it doesn't matter. But bump, this is important. So the bump map is basically texture knowing where it's lifted up and where it's pushed down. So three-dimensionality. Bump adds three-dimensionality to the texture. And there are two ways of how three-dimensionality can be generated, or rather three ways. First two are bump or a normal map. They work in the same way almost. And the third one is the displacement map. And if I were to Google it for you real quickly, just a second. Really quickly. Bump versus displacement. So there we go. This is going to be fine. Let me show it here. So there is this, right now we have this, right? This left-hand side one. No bump, no displacement, right? Bump mapping adds three-dimensionality to the shape, right? So the light, it reacts to it and produces shadows on itself and so on. So it's already pretty good, but it doesn't actually change the geometry of the shape, right? So it's still a perfect sphere. It's just the shading that changes. While the displacement map actually rebuilds the geometry to have like this three-dimensionality. So the displacement map is what is most accurate. Bump map is less accurate. The reason why we use bump map rather than displacement map is processing power. Displacement maps just destroy your render times, and you usually use displacement maps on stuff that is impossible to achieve with a bump map. For instance, you know, if you actually need this kind of a rock and you're looking at it pretty close up, then you would use displacement map on it rather than bump, but usually it's just the bump map, that's enough. Okay, coming back here. So that's the bump map, right? And I have already prepared a texture for it. So if I go to bitmaps, and you can do that with Photoshop, by the way. I've been doing it with Photoshop for quite a while. That's my, maybe I can increase it just to show you better. So that's my bump map, and that's my diffuse map. Come on. That's diffuse, that's bump. Looks very similar, right? Well, the reason why it looks very similar is because in this case, my diffuse is kind of grayscale. So it's all gray colors, and bump map needs to be grayscale. So the way bump map is calculated is stuff that is dark pixels that are dark are going to be pushed in, and pixels that are bright are going to be pushed upwards. So this is how you map the height of the texture, right? So you can see here that most of my tiles are bright, while in between the tiles I have dark colors. So it's going to behave in a way that the seams between the tiles are going to be shaded as if they are being pushed in, right? Because they're dark. Okay, so I choose my bump texture, hit open, loads it in, jump up back to the material, and now you can't really see it. Well, we need to change the amount first of all. So the amount is in millimeters. So this is just 1 millimeter bump. Actually, my paving, I would say I want at least a centimeter, right, of a bump for the paving. So I'm gonna do that. And here you still can't see it, but if I were to, let me increase the glossiness of the reflection a bit. Come on, make it more reflective maybe. Yeah, I mean, once it's super reflective, then you can see better, you know, these kind of lines and this kind of a bump. But yeah, let me jump back to 0.6 and super dark color. We want it subtle. You don't want to overdo things, that's for sure. Okay, so we have that going now. And the only thing left to do is, and I kind of like how the texture is. So the only thing left to do is to actually apply it to stuff that we wanna apply it to, right? So it's going to be the pathway. I wonder if there's anything else that we wanna apply it to. Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe the walls later on, but for now, let's just do the pathway, right? So pavement tiles, apply to selection to both of these. And you can see one of them is fine, the other one is messed up. So let's just do, while we still have both of these selected, let's go to properties, texture mapping, box mapping, enter, 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 as per usual. So it gets super messed up. And then I'm going to go down here. Actually, named views, we don't really need to see the named views right now, so I'll just drag them out and delete them. XYZ size, right? So that's important. So I kind of need to find a proportion for the texture, how it's going to be tiled. And if I look at the image here, I kind of want this to be like a meter long, maybe less. No, let's do, so I want this to be a meter long tile, right? So meter, 2, 3 meters, and 4 meters. So 4 by 2.5. Let's go for that. 4 by 2.5. So here I'll just type in 4,000 millimeters. Here I'll type in 2,500 millimeters. And yeah, looks fine. And here it doesn't really matter because it's the height. So I'll just type in also 4,000 millimeters. That's whatever. So we end up having this texture, and I think it looks fine. Famous last words, right? It does seem to look fine. So I'll stick to it, right? That's okay. So that's my path. Oh, I have much more stuff to do with the path, so let me hide. Here and here, I actually want these two to be, what do I want them to be? Maybe gravel. It could be like small stones. That would be pretty cool, right? Yeah, let's do small stones here. So these two guys will create one more material. Again, I would Google it, and I already did that so that we don't waste time, but I would Google and find a nice stone material or stone texture and kind of use Photoshop to create a bump map. So you basically just desaturate it and end up having stones. So I'll just create a generic material. I'll call it gravel. Gravel. And for the color, I'll show you a faster way of how to do it. So for the color, I have already downloaded it here somewhere. Bear with me. Or maybe I haven't. No, I did. Okay, so I have downloaded this gravel texture, and the faster way of how to just slap it in is just drag and drop and kind of move it into this box, and it immediately becomes gravel. So for this one, I'll actually use ground preview like that. So this is how it's going to look like. And bump map, sometimes when you download the material, it has this normal map, which is purple, right? So the normal map is the same thing as bump map. It's a little bit different. It has more information in it, but the basic principle is the same. You take it, you drag and drop it into the texture of the bump map. But here, instead of a bump map, you choose normal map. That's it. That's all you kind of need to do. And it becomes bumpy, lumpy. Let's say it like that. I think that is it with this. Let me actually investigate that normal map real fast. Just bear with me for a second. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, so that's all you need to do. If you see something purple, just change this to normal map and you'll be good to go. I will apply this as my gravel. Okay. Oh, it's already pretty good. It is already quite nice. I know, like if you zoom in, it's not that great, but we are going to look at it at an angle from far away, so it's not going to be that bad. But you can see the tiling here. That's a problem. So let's switch it up a bit. First thing that I'm going to do is do the box mapping again. Enter, enter, enter. So I box mapped this. And my gravel texture is square, so all of these parameters, not parameters, yeah, XYZ size is going to have the same number, so I'll just 111 it and then lock it in place. And now give it, let's look at it. If it's a meter by meter sized texture, I think that's fine. I think that looks fine. So, okay, sure. Let's just have it as 1 meter by 1 meter. Let's take a look at it. You can still see the tiling, right? It's messed up. So there is one thing that I can kind of teach you how to do, and it's an advanced thing, and it only works in the newest version of Vray. So if you don't have the newest version, sucks. But if you do, go to the Vray asset editor, and where you see gravel, I believe you can go to the texture of gravel. So you just click on this texture slot here, and just slow me down, slow down the video if I'm gonna go too fast. You go to texture placement, and here you just choose, instead of 2D UVW channel, you choose mapping source, and UVW placement source, you choose UVW placement like that. So it kind of continues doing what it was doing. Then you go to randomization, and here you choose stochastic tiling. And if you do that, okay. Apparently, if you do that, nothing will show up on the screen. But if you render it out then, and I'm gonna do it right now. If you render it out, then it should blend the tiling a little bit better. So let's take a look at it. Yeah, good. So I can't really see the tiling, the repetition of the texture. That's great. So that's how you do it, kind of. You actually need to do the same thing. 0.5, huh? Okay, so you actually need to do the same thing for the bump map as well. or the normal map. Texture placement, mapping source, UW placement, randomization, stochastic tiling 0.05. Oh, and I used 0.5 for that one, so I need to fix that. These two numbers need to match. There we go. So now it's fine. Anyway, just a small little thing, little trick that helps solve the tiling. Might be useful in some cases. Either way, we have fixed this. My phone is vibrating. Just a second. Okay. Yes. Tiling, right? Tiling of these plates here. What do we want for these plates? Marble? Basalt, maybe. I want stones here, but I'm not sure what kind of stones. Maybe. Maybe we can do basalt. Okay, so I think I have it. Let's just see. I have that. Maybe we can use that. Black slate. That looks nice, doesn't it? Yeah, that's beautiful. Okay, so let's use that texture here on these panels. So I'm just going to create a new texture again. Materials, generic. So you can see how many materials are kind of super simple to kind of do, right? It's just color, reflection, bump map, done. It's insane. Slate, apply material to selection, get that slate texture, slap it in here. That's how it's gonna look like. Questionable. Maybe it can be rotated, but if it's rotated, it's gonna be a mess, huh? Maybe no one will notice. Maybe we can kind of get away with it. Either way, let's do some. Let's select this and do some texture mapping. So box map. Enter. And here I'll just say 2000, so 2 meters by 1 meter because it's pretty long. And that's how it looks like. So it's not great. Not great at all. Okay, so let's make it bigger. 3000 by 1500. That's fine. There's going to be a little bit of a seam work there, but I don't think it's going to show up that much. So I can call it with this. So let's do. So slate is reflective, right? So I'll add a little bit of reflection color, and it's glossy. So I'll add like 0.7 glossiness to it. Let's take a look at it as if it's a floor. Yeah, that's pretty close. I don't really want to have any bump on it per se. Well, maybe we can just add a little bit of bump. So a trick is, if you don't have a bump map, just use the displacement map. Plop it in there. So I'm just basically taking the texture of the diffuse, not displacement. I'm just taking the texture of the diffuse map and dragging it onto the bump map here and choosing paste as copy. And the amount, yes, 1 millimeter, not more than that. 1 millimeter is fine. Just a little bit of shimmy. Okay, so that is done. Close that. And let's see, show. So I just type in show to show everything. And now I think I can just hide the paths layer. So that is done. That is kind of fixed. My roof. Oh, right. So my roof here is done. So let me hide that. But the bottom of the roof is not. So these two surfaces here are not done. So how do you work with those? Okay, let's do it this way for now, just for a tiny bit. I want this to be wood, right? So we could kind of go in here. The wood materials are not that bad in here, but the problem is that they're all kind of glossy and the planks are not that, I wouldn't call them that great. So even though you can kind of use them, they're not excellent. Instead, I'll just create a new generic material, call it wood. This is gonna be like orange wood, right? Orange wood, and find it here. I think this, we can use this. Do I have anything else here that we could use? Maybe, actually, those planks are looking pretty damn nice. Let's take a look at them. I really like the planks. Okay, we're gonna use the planks. So wood orange, sure. Like that, wood planks, slap them in there, become planks. I'll just change this to floor again. I do have a bump material created. This is again just the saturated version of this material, nothing fancy. So that's going to go in here. Now I need to decide how much of a bump I want. So in millimeters, I would say around 3 millimeters should do the trick. We don't want it to be overly extreme. It is a new house that we're making, right? Reflection, wood is pretty reflective. Well, not that reflective though. And glossiness 0.8. It is quite glossy, but this is like it has lack on it. So maybe a little bit less. So 0.7 for that. Yeah, I think that's gonna work. So that's our wood orange. Apply selection. That's how it's gonna look like. Actually, the tiling is pretty good, but let's see if we can make it better. So I'll go here to the properties, and I'll just go to town with it. So box map, enter, enter, enter. So I'm still using box mapping for it. And you can see how messed up it gets. Well, that's fine. And I'll just say 1,000. Let's just do 111, lock it, and then change one of them to 1,000. Like that. And the tiling will be kind of really obnoxious, but don't worry about it. We will only see small portions of it. And now the question is, do I want the tiling to be this way or this way? Actually, let's switch directions of this one just so that I can show you how to. The way you do it is if you go to UVW rotation here, you can just change this to 90. That's it. It just rotates the tiling, right? That's about it. Okay, so that is done. And actually, this is really similar to this, but I want them to be the same, to have the same tiling, exactly the same tiling. So I'll just choose this one, and I'll choose match mapping, this icon right here, match mapping. And I'm going to click on this object right here. So basically this one will have the same mapping as this one. Quite a useful tool as well when you have some sort of mapping already set up. So the tiling is done. I will probably change the ceiling here to a white color, but or maybe not. We'll see. So the tiling is done there. I can hide this, or either I can show. I can hide the whole roof layer. We're getting there, slowly, little by little, but we are getting there. Okay, what do we do next? What do we do next? Do we do the beams or do we do... We could do the terrace, right? It's next on the list. Yeah, might as well do the terrace. So for the terrace, I'll use the same texture. as for the roof, I'm lazy. Same planks, because you know, terrace made out of planks. Sure, why not? You know, that just works. So I'm just going to use that, and the tiling of it. Maybe I can change the tiling. I can make these planks a bit bigger, or for both of these actually. So I'll go to properties, box mapping, enter, enter, enter. And I'll just change this to, I think we had it at 1000. So 1 meter by 1 meter by 1 meter. So let me do 1500. A little bit bigger. Something like that. And also rotated, right? Yeah, it needs to be rotated. So 90 degrees, like that. It's not great. So you can see the tiling here. So it's not that great, but I think it's gonna do the job. Well, if it's screwed up later, we'll fix it. But for now, let's say the terrace is done. Glass roof done. Walls. Okay, so for the walls, what kind of walls do we want? Should I be lazy? Should I be lazy? That's the question. Yes, I should. Of course I should. I should be lazy, right? Yeah. So the walls, I'll just select all of the outside walls first. These guys right here, oh, as well as this. Let me group them into one one group, because that's going to be important. So I have them grouped, and I will apply the same pavement tiles texture to it. Same tiling, and tiling is nice. So let me go to properties, box, apply the box map to them, and I believe I used 1000 by 1000 by 1000. No, I haven't. These are super small. Crap, I don't remember. We need to check. Oh, right. The diffuse tiles were 1, 2, 3, 4 meters by 2.5. So it's not locked actually. It's 4 meters by 2500 by 2.5 and 2.5 here. Okay, so that is how it should look like. I think it looks fine. And if you want the tiling to start at some sort of a precise point, you can do that by just where you have the XYZ position. If you click this icon here, click, and you choose a point, the texture will start from that point. That is kind of useful as well. Sorry. So that's the tiling of the outer walls. Let me hide them for a bit. And the inner walls, so everything that is left, and notice how I have these surfaces here. This is so that the tiling from the outer walls is different from the tiling from the inner walls. So it's a little bit exploded, but works. So the inner walls, I will create a material for them. And I think, what kind of material do we want? Let's create a, well, it is going to be a generic material, and let's call it inner walls. Inner walls, and let me just take a look at stuff that I have downloaded. Or rather that I have here. Marble, leather, paper, porcelain. What are you? Huh. Stucco. This. Let's use this. This looks good. So we will be using that as a color. And we also have a bump map for it. Perfect. We will use that as our bump map. Bump. Bam. And the amount of the bump is going to be like maximum 3 millimeters, not more than that. Reflection, going to be a little bit reflective, just a tiny bit, with glossiness of 0.8. I think that will work. Let's take a look at it as a wall close-up. Yeah, that looks like a decent wall. Okay, so that's going to be the inner walls. Let me select all of them by just right-clicking on the walls layer and selecting them from there, and apply. Apply material to selection. That is done. And the tiling is not that bad, but could be better. So I will, let me select objects again, go to properties, apply box mapping, enter, enter, enter as per usual. And here, that is a square texture, so I'll use the same amount, the same size for all coordinates. So that's one by one meter. And let's take a look at, oh, books, good. Compared to books, this is a little bit intense, like a little bit too big. So my thoughts are, my thoughts are that maybe 1 meter is a bit too big of a texture. So let's do 800 millimeters. I think that is better. And I'm also going to do the trick with the stochastic tiling of the texture. So texture placement, mapping source, UVW placement source, randomization, stochastic tiling, up. And same thing for the bump. I'm going to kind of do this for a few materials, but this is the new, I think that came out in the newest version of Vray, so you don't really need to do it. It just helps with tiling, but it's not that important. Okay, railing. Oh, that's easy. Guess what kind of material I'm gonna use? Where's my metal? Metal, roof metal. Apply. That's it. Black rails. Nice. Okay. Beams. Really want to say metal beam? Yeah, why not? Select objects. Apply to selection. Metal beams. Slabs. Okay, so this is where it gets a bit tricky, right? So we want so slabs are these guys here, this one and this one, but you can see that I have them exploded, and the reason why I have them exploded is because I want a different material for the ceiling. I want a different material for the floor and so on, right? So we need to kind of investigate it a bit more. And also I want to make sure that, let me just check how the model is done. Okay, so beams will kind of block out the slabs there. That's good. So for the floor, I think we can just use wood orange, this guy right here, for now. And the tiling of it, I think the tiling is fine. This one I won't even change. Let's change it. Let's change it. Lock 22000. Oh, that's too big. Sorry. 2200. Enter. Rotation 90. Yeah, that's fine. So that's our like top of the floor. Hide that. And then we have the rest here, which should probably just be the same color. It should be the same color as the walls, right? So I'm just going to select this and change the color of it to inner walls, like that. And you can kind of see it here. And I don't remember what kind of tiling I used for it. So I'm going to do it again. And Yeah, I think I used like 800, right? Something like that. I'm gonna use that on this as well. Once I've done that, I'll hide it just so that it's not in the way, and I'll kind of investigate what else I can do with this. So there is like a part that is like a ring for the stairway, as well as this portion right here, which is basically the front of a slab that is shown in the interior. So these two, I'll make them metal, like I have with everything else, and I won't hide them. They will not get in the way, so they're fine. They're fine the way they are, right? Right. So that is done, and now for the floor here. So, so maybe the floor. I'm just thinking. So the floor itself, I think, can be same orange wood material, right? Like that. And the tiling of it. Bam. Enter, enter, enter. 111 lock and 2000. Or was it 2200? I don't remember. Well, let's just say 2000. If something doesn't fit, I'll fix it later. So that's our floor. And I think that's it. Oh, there's like one side here. And that side, what is going to be? Oh, that side is the footing of the building. So the wall comes in here and there's the footing. I want it metal. Or maybe slate. Let's do metal for now. We'll see how it looks like. So where is it? Roof metal, apply. Okay, so I'm done with the floors. I'm going to type in show to show them everything, and actually I'm just going to hide it immediately. So slabs hidden. Now we have the furniture. The furniture layer, which is going to take a long time. So I'm not gonna mess around with them for now. I'm just going to hide them because I just want to kind of get this going and kind of show you the exterior rendering and how it's going to look like. And then to save time, I will do one piece of furniture by myself, and then the rest I'll just do it off stream, so to say, off camera. So next is stairs. For stairs, I have like two different geometries. So there's a beam that's holding the stairs. So of course it's gonna be metal, and the stairs themselves, and they are going to be wooden stairs, right? Nothing fancy about them. I think we can rotate them. Like we can rotate the wood. Oh yeah, we need to first apply the box mapping, and then we rotate the wood 90 degrees like that, and we say that this is 2200 or 2000. I never remember. Anyway, we have stairs, and they might look good, they might look bad, doesn't really matter. We won't really be rendering them out that much. And then the doors. That's a question, huh? So the doors can't be the same material as the freaking floor. That would be super weird and super boring as well. So we need to figure out what kind of door color we'll have. Maybe different kind of wood. So generic material, door wood. And we have this here that we could use, or we have this one here. I just wonder. I mean, this one is much calmer. This one is much calmer. Let's use that one. So door wood. Bam, bam. Gonna look like that. just apply it to all of the doors. Hello? Doors, select objects, door wood, apply to selection. There we go. That is done. Looks fine. Just make sure to do the box mapping on them. So box map, enter, 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 lock 111, because it's a square texture, and let's do 600 or something like that. 600 millimeters. Let's see if it's, yeah, it's close enough. So 600 is fine. Also, I want some bump on this, as well as a little bit of reflection, just a tiny bit of reflection with 0.8 glossiness. And for the bump, do we have a bump material here? Yes, we do. So I'll just slap on the bump map material to here. And it's just going to be like 2 millimeters maximum of a bump, not more than that. Don't need to be more. So that's it with the doors and the stairs. Shed. So this is going to be a little bit more like complex layer, in the sense that it's going to have a few materials attached to it. So the first one is, let's start from the roof and move down. So the roof, huh? What kind of roof can I have? It can be slate. Let's do metal for now. We'll figure it out later. Lazy. For the wood though, I'm thinking of having wood in 2 different colors maybe. That would be pretty cool, huh? If it's two separate colors. Do I have what kind of colors do I have? I have this one. This one is kind of nice. Or maybe everything can be this color, because it's a nice color to have. Okay, so let's do this. Material generic wood dark. And this is the wood color that we're gonna use. And the bump map is, I don't have a bump map for it, so I'll just reuse the same texture as my bump map with a little bit of a bump, 3 millimeters. Reflection, a little bit of reflection, 0.6, super glossy, so it's not so much in your face. Maybe reflection color a little bit less, something like that. And I'll just apply it. Yeah, for now, let's apply it to everything, right? So I'll just apply it to all of these elements. Apply to selection. Perfect. Actually, I will not be changing this. This looks fine in terms of tiling. It looks okay. So I will keep it as it is. That's fine. Looks fine. I will not change it. What I will change though is the tiling of it. So texture placement, I'll just really quickly mapping source, that randomization that I really like. Just bear with me for a second. Okay, that's done. Right, so we have this done, and the last thing is the inner space. So if I look at the base, hello? Oh, never mind, not the base, the paths. If I look at the paths, I can see the tiling here. I'm thinking maybe I should just kind of have the same material, right? So I'll just take the tiling, pavement tiles, apply, like so, and just grab this and go to properties, match mapping, and match it to this guy here. So now the tiling is a little bit messed up. So let me just change it real quick. This needs to be 2500. Now it's fixed. Looks fine. I think that looks good. Let me show. Okay. So that is shown. Let me show all of the geometries here that we have. Whew, so that was materials, like creating very basic materials, and the way you do it, right? So let's jump into exterior one. Oh, for that I need named views. No, that's named selections. Named views, named view. Exterior one, double click on that, dog this here, and this a bit. Render. Let's take a look. Okay. This is starting to look like an actual building, right? So that's a fine, that's okay. The way it looks right now, like the metal is not that glossy, and stuff could be kind of changed here inside, I mean, but the way it looks right now is okay. It's passable, but we will be making it much nicer. Exterior 2, render this one out as well. I'm just basically the way I'm the reason why I'm doing it this right now is I'm just checking if there are any issues with my textures, like immediate issues. So here, like this is fine, but what I wanna do is I really wanna kind of change the angle a little bit. Something closer to this. So that it's kind of top heavy now, which I don't really like. So can we make it less top heavy? I think we can. All we need to do is just kind of zoom out a bit and then go to set view. This zoom dynamic thingy. And slowly inch in and find a new position for the camera. So that is okay, like composition wise, that looks that seems okay, but there's a lot of empty space on the sides. So I'm thinking, should we break the composition then? Maybe no. Oh, it just crashed? Okay, cool. Oh, it's back. Okay. Just took it a while. No, if we change the composition, it's gonna mess it up quite bad. So first thing is perspective. Perspective is too strong. Oh wow. No. 22. Let's go for 22 here. Something like that. Like that. Zoom out. So now perspective is not that intense, and this doesn't seem that top heavy anymore. I think that looks much better. And there's going to be ways of how to make it less top heavy. So that, maybe just rotate. Yeah, I think we can make this work. Right now it's super empty all around, but we will add a bunch of stuff around and it's gonna look nice. So this is our new exterior too. I'll just overwrite it. Okay, so materials are kind of okay, the way they look. There's a lot of things that I wanna fix, but the beginning of it is fine. So now let's jump into 3D models, right? Using and creating 3D models. 3D models as in furniture and so on. So first of all, how do you get furniture? Where do you get furniture from? And there's like a website called cgtrader.com. And that's gonna be a login. No, can't show my login on YouTube. cgtrader.com. Can I just kind of do this? There we go. That's fine. It's not gonna ask me to log in. So here, I do believe you do need to create an account, but that's really fast and it's free. And here you can kind of find, let's say I need a couch, right? Couch. Right? So there's a bunch of 3D models here, and of course the nice ones you need to pay for, right? Nothing's free in life. You need to pay for everything. But here there is a way where you can say, yeah, there is this tick mark here for free stuff. If you tick mark this, then all of these couches are free for you to download. So let's say, whichever. I'll just grab a chair instead of a couch. That's going to be faster. So a chair, free download, sure. I'll click on that. And then it's going to say, wait 20 seconds or something. And it's going to just kind of download it for me. Let's wait for it to download. Minute. Wait a minute. There we go. So now it's asking me for what kind of models, what kind of format do I want. And 3ds or OBJ or FBX, all of these work, right? Doesn't matter which one you get. I usually get OBJ. OBJ seems to be the most stable. So I'll just download it. Oh, come on, and I need to log in. Wait. Oh my god, now I need to press on cars. Did you know that this is like that captcha where you need to press on cars and so on is a way of how they train artificial intelligence to know what a car is. We're basically doing the legwork for them. Cool, huh? I forgot my password. Train. Now I need to select trains. Don't worry about it. Oh my god, I forgot my password. Okay, let's do it this way. I'll pause the video and I'll just download it on my own time. Okay, finally. I have managed to log in. Now we're downloading it. Now we have downloaded it, and that's going to be an OBJ file that we have. And basically that OBJ file, you just drag and drop it into your Rhino file. You choose not to open, but rather to import the file. Hit OK. Wait for it to do its magic. It's going to ask you a few things. You just agree to it. That this is my settings. Hit OK. And it's going to be placed somewhere. So now we need to find it. Oh, by the way, I have 2-point perspective for this view, so you can see how messed up it gets when I rotate it, and I'm rotating it. So I'll just switch over to perspective view. Then I can see that once it's imported, it's automatically selected. So as long as you don't press anywhere and you just type in ZS and click enter, it's going to zoom into it. You're going to zoom into it. So that's our chair, that's downloaded. I can take a look at it. So there's the top portion and there's the legs. I believe that's it. Yep, just those two meshes. So that's my chair. I can select it. I will kind of group it. And the thing is that you always have, like, the stuff that you have imported usually is not in the correct scale. So I'll do a bounding box for it. and I will scale it up with the bounding box. Scale from this point on until the top. I can just say what kind of a distance I want. So I'll just scale it up to, how high is the chair? Wait. Wait. I just have this ruler. Around 83, so let's say 80 centimeters, so 800 millimeters. Click. What happened there? From here to here, 800, enter. There we go. But now this chair is in the correct size. I'll delete the bounding box, don't need that anymore, so that's my chair. I will go to the top view. I'll place it wherever I want it to be in the top view. So for now, let me just place it somewhere in the terrace, I guess. Why the hell not? Somewhere here. I'll go to the left view maybe, or it can be the perspective view, doesn't matter. I'll go to left view and I'll place it according to height and the correct height, and I have no idea which line, which one of these lines is the correct height. So I will go to the perspective view, turn on the shaded view, and I can see that my chair is sinking inside of the terrace. So I'll just kind of find the correct placement for it, maybe a little bit higher up. MV, that's move vertical, something like that. That seems fine. Now I can just rotate it. Hello, rotate. Go, something like that. I can make a copy of it. Better to make copies after you've textured. Apologies. Better to make copies after you've textured the chair. So I'll ungroup it. I have the top of the chair, the bottom of the chair. The bottom of the chair is going to have my wood, orange, no, wood, dark, no, door wood. Let's use door wood. That's going, so these legs are going to have the texture of the wood for the doors, and the tiling seems to be fine, so I will not be changing that. And this is going to be some sort of a fabric, right? So do I have a fabric here? I have leather. I can use leather. Is there anything else that I could use? Brushed fabric. I do have fabric, so I'll use fabric. What is this? Looks like curtain fabric. Not sure if I should use it. But it is a pretty nice fabric. What about this? Okay. Is there anything else that I could use? No. Okay, so let me... Oh, there's also one here. Just brighter. Okay, so let me use this one right here. So I have... I'll create a new material, generic. And I'll just call that material fabric1. Fabric1. And that is going to be my fabric right here. And it's going to have a bump map, of course, as per usual. And I'll probably just use some sort of a, like, let's see this fabric right here. Or I don't know which one is which. Naming your textures is also important, by the way. Just keep that in mind. Let's see. Load up. So these two are not, okay, they don't belong to the same texture set. Oh, this, good. Fabric A, okay, so that is the one that we need, and I will just use that as my bump. And it seems to be a pretty rough fabric, and for it, I will just use like 3 millimeters of a bump. Now for texture placement, I'll do the magic thing with the Stochastic Tiling. That. And for bump map, I'll do the same thing. There we go. And just apply it. Okay. So the tiling of it is not that great right now. if you see that for imported geometry, if you see that the tiling at least follows the curvature quite well, don't be fast at applying the box map for imported geometry. Don't be so fast at applying the box map. Rather, you can just go for UVW repetitions here, and you can change how many times the tiling is repeated. So if I do 2 by 2 by 2, you can see that the tiling just became twice as small, 2 times smaller rather, right? So I will do like 5 by 5 by 5. Oh, come on, by 5. And I think it's pretty close to reality. How in reality it would look like. By the way, if you see something closer to this, bam. You know, if you see a bunch of mesh wires, that's fine. You just go to display settings and you can turn off the mesh wires so that they're not so much in your face. Once I've done that, I will group the chair with its legs together again, and I'll kind of make a copy of it, maybe rotate it a bit like that. So we have kind of 2 chairs here. Just chilling. Okay, so that is done. We have all of this. What else? Where's my walls? Hello? Show. My God, I forgot to show the walls. Anyway, so that is fixed. Everything seems to be okay. And that is how you download stuff. We will be downloading trees and so on for the 3rd tutorial, but for this one, it's just the furniture piece. So let's render it out again. I just want to see how it's gonna look like. And I'll show you how to create. Right now we will be creating a more complex material than a generic one. So I'll be talking about that. This looks fine. This looks okay. We can make this work. It's a little bit dark, but that's fine. We will make this work. So now we will be working on the ground. Right? We will be working with the ground material. So for that, I will be actually hiding everything except the base and exterior landscape. I'll hide everything. I'll just keep these 2. Oh yeah, and the chairs, they need to go to the furniture tab here. So this is just stuff that we'll be working on, and that is going to be called ground material. So let's talk a little bit about materials in general. I only showed you the generic material, but there's much more to them. So there's emissive materials as well. Those shine light, right? So just a second. So materials that basically produce light can be created through emissive material options or by using mesh light. Mesh light actually makes light. Emissive material kind of lies about making light, so I don't really use it anymore. I used to use it, but now when the mesh light came out, I'm not using it anymore. So we don't need that. There's 2-sided materials, basically a material that is it has 2 different sides and it has a certain amount of translucency between them. So think about it as 3 leaves, right? So the front, do I have a 3 leaf? No, I don't want to scab any of those. The front of the 3 leaf, let me just create that one actually. So the front of the 3 leaf can have one type of material, cold green, a little bit glossy, or rather quite glossy and smooth, not bumpy. And then the back of the leaf has a different kind of material. Warm green, so it's a little bit warmer. It's less glossy, a little bit more fuzzy, and it has the bump of the veins of the leaf, you know, the veiny part of the leaf. So it has that on the back side, not on the front side. So those are like two materials that need to interact on some geometry, right? So what you do is you create a plane, geometric plane, and then on top of that plane you attach one material, on the other half you attach the other material, right? On the bottom part you attach the other material. So this is what this does exactly. I will be talking about it more once we import trees and we use the trees in our model, but for now just know that that's what it's used for. It's also used for paper, for instance, lanterns and stuff like that. Translucent paper, so I'll just delete it for now. Then there's car paint material, which is kind of nice. It has these kind of small speckles for the car paint, but never use it, so I have no idea if it can be used for anything else than car paint. You have subsurface scattering, so that is wax, as in candle wax. That is skin, like human skin is subsurface scattering material. What else? Bubblegum, right? Stuff that is, when light hits that material, it will start bouncing inside. Oh, marble is also slightly subsurface scattering. So if I create this material, you can see example of it right here, right? It immediately kind of shows up. If I change the scatter color to green, then it scatters green color, right? So you can create a bunch of like really cool things with the subsurface scattering material. Do I have any examples of it that I have rendered out? No, that's the bad one. Boom. Like that. Like that. So yeah, I do. So this is, actually I have like two good examples. So this surface here, where the butt cheeks are and well, all of it is a subsurface scattering material. So notice how like it looks soft, right? And another one, this one right here, is just a glossy plastic, or not even porcelain. So this is porcelain material versus subsurface scattered wax material, right? So this looks and feels much more lifelike compared to this, even though the model here is worse than this one. And this one, did I use? No, this one is just whatever. And this, no, then also no. So it's just this example that I have of a subsurface material in action, right? You can especially see it maybe in this example. Yeah, perfect. The ear is glowing, right? Because of the intense light. So that's how it behaves actually. And it also has it has a bunch of different properties, but it's a really good material for lifelike backs, figures, and then the skin and whatnot. Anyway, marble. So that's subsurface scattering. There's hair material, but I don't really use it. We might end up using it, but we'll see. We'll see if we have the time. VR scan materials are something that you can get, and they are super intricate and super high quality materials that Vray, like people at Chaos Group, the creators of Vray, are doing. But they are paid for, and they're quite expensive, but they're the highest standard materials out there. So VR scan has just a different type in general compared to other ones. And then you have bump, blend, and blah, 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 all of these. So let me show you, like other ones are whatever, but let me show you the blend material here with the ground. So I'll create a blend material and I'll just call it ground dash master material of the ground. And I'll just apply it to all of my ground geometries here. The way this works is basically Photoshop, straight up. It has layers that are stacked on top of each other of materials, and it has alpha masks or masks that say at which part of the page, or in this case of the model, should which material be shown, right? Very quick example of it. Let's say, let me create 3 materials. I will, yeah, generic, come on, generic. Okay, 3 materials, and I'll call this red. I'll call this blue. And I'll call the third one mask. So I have red, blue, mask. My ground master material, so my base material is going to be red, right? And one more layer on top of it. So I just click this icon right here to create one additional layer. The material on top of it will be blue. Oh yeah, and I probably need to make the red material actually red and the blue material actually blue. There we go, red, blue. So ground master material will be pink, right? 50% red, 50%, well, half of the blue material is being projected on the red material. So it becomes pink, right? It's pretty straightforward than that. With this blend, I can say that, well, more blue or less blue, right? So I have that kind of control. But what's more interesting is this texture that I can attach to the blend material, right? And that is why I have mask here. So this is going to be like my testing material, first of all, to create a texture for masking. So I'm just going to select my geometry, apply to selection. So now the mask material is applied to it. And here for the color, I will choose, let's go for checker. Why not? This color type, right? So it's kind of nice and funny. It's all checkered, right? So if I render this out, it looks like this, not great. So we can kind of select this and apply, you know, the old trusted box map, enter, 111 lock, and then let's say every meter. Can we see it? Yeah, we can. Okay, so every meter. White, black, white, black, white, black, right? Checker pattern. So let's say we are happy with how the mask looks like, right? Then what I can do is I can take that texture of the mask that I have created, copy it, go to ground master material, and paste it here in the blend. And by the way, this is not something that you definitely need to learn how to do right now. I'm just showing you an example of a blend material and how it works. Paste as copy, right? So now wherever the mask is white, wherever the texture was white, it's going to use the blue material. Wherever the texture was black, it's going to use the red material, right? And the texture, again, the texture looks like this, right? So this is going to be, everything that is black is going to be cut out from the blue material, right? So the red is going to shine through, if that makes any sense. So let's apply that material here. Ground master, apply it to selection. This is how it's gonna look like, right? So this is the strength of using a blend material. right? And I'll show you how I use it to create landscape, more intricate landscape materials, right? Than just your average grass. Right, so let me just get a sip of coffee and we will do exactly that. Just a second. All right. Just had a little bit of coffee and we can continue. So, I showed you this texture thingy, yeah, auto saving, yeah. I showed you this texture thingy and the way it works, and if I change blue to, you know, some other color, and kind of, by the way, it doesn't show up here on the screen. That's the drawback of it. But if I go back to ground master, it's gonna change the color here, right? So that's basically how it works. So now let's say well, I already have these materials here, so might as well kind of work with them. So my blue material, I'll just rename it to moss, right? That's going to be moss. Or let me actually have naming conventions, ground-moss. That's going to be blue. And for wherever red is, that is going to be ground dirt. So I want dirt, I want moss, and maybe I'll add more materials down the line. And the mask material is the one that I'm going to be using to test out how moss is going to be tiled on the ground. So I will start working with the mask first. I'll apply this material to both of these and I'll start rendering like that. And definitely, you know, we don't want this kind of a, we don't want it to be applied this way. It's a little bit, you know, that would be weird. Let's say it like that. So I'm going to clear this diffuse map. And instead, I'm just going to use a noise map, perhaps. So there's noise A and noise B. I always use noise B. Don't ask me why. We're going to use this kind of a noise material here. And I'm going to say that the size of it is, yeah, 0.1. That's whatever. We will fix it. Or, no, let's start from another side. Let's attack it from another side. So I will not be doing the mask first. Let me jump back and clear it. Clear. No mask. Let's start with ground dirt, with this material right here. So I will be applying the ground dirt material to both of these geometries. Actually, let me group them so that it's easier to select. And then apply. We'll be using that. Okay, so we need dirt. How do we get dirt? Well, there is a very, very nice website, texturehaven.com. That is not how you write it. Texturehaven.com. That is how you write it. You go to textures, you go to, not rock, terrain. And then here you find the texture that you want to use. So I will use probably rocks ground. That looks fine. Rocks ground 3, that also looks fine. There's a lot of nice ones. Coral gravel, aerial, wood snips. Let's start with this, rocks ground, right? This one, I will download all of the maps. So you choose all maps. And I will download them as 2K maybe? Yeah, let's do 2K. I don't want it to take too long. So 2K resolution JPEG images. Download. It's going to download it as a zip file. I'll just show in folder. Get that in, copy it. And I have like a separate folder where I keep all of my materials. So it's located somewhere here. Textures. Yeah, there we go. That's good. And extract it here. So the thing that I got now is rocks ground. There we go. All of these maps, right? A lot of them. Some of them we will use, some of them we will not be using. So the first one is ambient occlusion. We will be using it, but later, or rather, I will show you how to use it. Diffuse map, displacement map, normal map, roughness map, and some ambient occlusion map. That's whatever. Whew. Sorry, I'm just thinking about it. I'm just really quickly thinking about how to get started. Let's start with the diffuse map, right? That's going to be the easiest one. I will go into my file here, right here, and when I see where I have ground dirt, I will just drag and drop in my diffuse map, like so. So this is how it's going to look like, and it's not great, definitely, but it does have that nice texture going on, but it's styled improperly, right? So I need to use a tiling for it. So I'll apply a box map to this thing, right? And I will change the size of the box map. So I'll lock it, I'll 111 it, and I will change this to 2000. So every 2 meters, the rock texture will be kind of repeated. Maybe we can do more. We can do every 4 meters or something like that. Let's do it. Every 4 meters. It's going to be repeated, and it's still going to be very tiled, and that is fine because we will be kind of adding layers to it, so it's going to be kind of hidden from us in that regard. So that's okay that it does this. So we have this rock texture here, but then let's look at other maps that we have. There's this ambient occlusion texture. So ambient occlusion is basically dirt, like dirt in the crevices of the texture, and we can actually apply it to the diffuse map. And the way we do it is if I will do a weird thing where I right click and clear, so I don't have any texture, and instead of just applying a bitmap, I will be applying a mix operator. This one, mix operator, where I'm going to say that my texture A is my, just do it, is my ground diffuse texture, like that, and my texture B is my ambient occlusion texture, like that, right? So what it does, it adds them up. I don't want to add them up, I want to multiply them. So basically the ambient occlusion texture gets it's the same thing as in Photoshop where you have multiplied blending. It's the same thing, right? So it kind of adds darkness to the crevices in that regard. Okay, so we have this going on. That's great. Then we have roughness map. The roughness map is kind of, well, it's not really necessary, but we can add it. And the thing is that we can't really see a roughness map input here with the default settings, but here in the top, you can see this switch to advanced settings toggle. If I click on it, then there's this diffuse roughness where I can actually add the roughness map. Rough. There we go. Then for reflection, I'll just have a little bit of reflection, and for glossiness, I'll have like 0.6 maybe. Glossiness for the reflection, just a tiny bit. We don't want it to be super glossy. Nothing else to change here. For refraction, it's not refractive at all. The bump map, I did see that there is a bump, or rather a normal map here that we can use. There's also a displacement map, but we don't really need a displacement map for this kind of a material, so I'll just use the normal. Light here, normal map. And amount, let's go for 20 centimeters, 20 millimeters, so 2 centimeters, maybe more. Let's do 30, 3 centimeters. So that's our ground, and if I kind of take a look at it from this perspective and I render it out, this is how it's going to look like. I think it looks fine. You know, it looks okay. There is a lot of tiling here, but that's fine. That's reasonable. If I change this to 1, though, it becomes quite glossy, so I don't want that. So let's find a nice balance, 20, 10, 10 is fine. So let's use 10 instead. So that is our like base code, right? Then on top of it, we will have the MOS code, right? So back to ground master. Right now it looks like that, right? Actually, let me just apply it so that you can see what it looks like. It render. It looks like that, right? It's a little bit weird, but it's what we set up, right? If I were to, the blending, if I were to clear the blending texture, then it's 50% blue, 50% ground, right? So now we need to create the moss material, right? So ground moss, instead of blue, we need to use some sort of a moss material for it. And I will, instead of using moss, I think I saw something very nice here. Let's come back. Where was it? Rocks, wall, aerial, brown mud with leaves. This one right here, that looks nice. I kind of want it. There's also like forest ground material that we could use, but I want to use the brown mud with leaves material on top. So I will be, I already have it downloaded as well. It's in my my textures file somewhere here. There we go. Also 2K resolution, JPEG images, all of this. So I'll kind of repeat the same procedure as I did with the ground. So it's nothing additional that you need to learn. Here we will just have mix operator. Then I will just add the diffuse map here and the ambient occlusion map here. And it's going to be multiplied. Then we will get to additional settings. And I will add the roughness. For reflection, I will add a little bit of reflection. And this can be like 0.8, maybe 0.7. Yeah, 0.7 will do the trick. Then for bump map, I'm also not using the displacement map again. We can use specular. So whenever you see spec, like this specular, that means that in reflection, instead of using just pure reflection, you can use this map, which is nice. It kind of saves us the trouble of trying to find the correct value here. So that's nice. So then bump map, right? Bump map. We have a normal map here because it's purple. If it's purple, it's a normal map, not a bump map. So I change this here and I'll just give it like 5, like that. And let's apply it. Apply ground moss to it, like that. Hit that render button. And this is how it's gonna look like, right? It's okay. It's nothing fancy, but it's fine. It's gonna do the trick that we want it to do. So now we want to actually be able to blend it, right? Because right now, if I take a look at it, it's kind of gonna be 50% one material, 50% the other, right? Let me just show you how it looks like, because we don't have any blending texture here. You know, 50% moss with leaves, or leaves with ground, and 50% gravel. Right, so we need a blending texture to kind of distinguish where we'll have which layer being shown. So I'll go to the mask and apply the mask to this. I'll keep rendering, keep doing the interactive render, and I'll switch the color to, again, to be noise texture, like so. And now I'll mess around with the noise texture until I'll see some sort of a nice pattern emerge. So I'm mostly looking at this and also always keeping an eye out on the render. So first of all, for color A and color B, white and black, that's fine. I will change the type to turbulence or fractal. Let's do fractal. It will give us more resolution. I will increase the contrast by changing the levels. So the closer these two sliders are to one another, the higher the contrast. And why is this not updating? Let's stop the render. If it's not updating, just stop and render again. So now you can see that it's beginning to pop up, right? So stuff that's white and stuff that's black. And always in the back of your head think that black stuff is going to be the gravel, the material that's underneath. The white stuff is going to be the material that's on the top, right? That's how it works. So let's find a nice balance between these. I want only spots of it to be white. So something like that, and the size of it needs to be bigger, 0.4. Something like that. That should be fine. Iterations, let's increase the iterations to 5 to give it more pronounced edge. And that's it. I think that's it. I think that's gonna look fine for what it is. So now we can go back to, we have this texture done, right? I came back and this texture is done. So I can just right click on it and choose copy, right? Right click, copy. And I can go to my ground master material, and here where it says blend, here I can choose paste as copy. Right click and paste as copy. And what it's going to do is going to use this texture to blend the two materials together. So now let me apply the ground master material here. Wait for this to update. If it doesn't, just stop the render. Oh, it does. Okay, so you can see most of it is ground. Some of it is most of it is gravel. Some of it has those dirt spots here. Let's increase the size of how much of the surface the dirt spots have, because I think it should be more. So I will just increase it by, I believe by doing this, right? Yeah, by doing that. So now this is a little bit nicer, a little bit more balanced. Okay, so we have two textures done. Let's keep going. So in my ground master material, I'll add one more layer, right? And I will create one more material, and I'll call this one, I will call ground moss. Ground moss. And I already have it here somewhere, probably, hopefully. Forest ground, kitchen wood, plywood, rocks, cliffs, rusty metal. I don't have it. Oh, I do. Moss. There we go. there it is, right? So I have this material right here, and I'll just kind of do the same procedure as we're used to. I'll stop the render so that it's not laggy. I'm getting tired. Albedo. Ambient occlusion, multiply. You always do the same thing. If you have the ambient occlusion color, if you don't, you just straight up drag and drop in the diffuse color here. Then for the bump map, that's going to be a normal map if I remember correctly. Yes, it is. A straight up normal map, and amount is 1. That's fine. Or actually, for the Let's do this thing. Usually normal maps do have amount of 1 as their bump. So let's not mess around with it. So I'll just change for ground dirt amount 1 for the normal map, and for oh, I have oh no. Oh no. I have 2 ground moss. So the previous one, ground moss, is not ground moss, but let's call it ground leaves. Or not leaves, ground dirt. No, ground dirt, we have it. We have ground moss, and the one in between, I'm talking about this material right here, ground leaves, sure. It's fine, ground leaves. So this guy right here will also have a normal map of 1. Okay, so normal maps, I change everything to be 1, right? So that it's not too intense. Coming back to ground moss material, the one that we are currently creating, we have the normal map, we have the diffuse reflection. Do we have a specular map? We do not, but we do have a roughness map, so we can use that. I will enable additional settings. I'll just drag in the Roughness Map. We're not dealing with displacement. If we dealt with displacement, we would need much more processing power and it would take much longer, but it would produce nicer results, basically. I will show displacement, of course, during these tutorials, but at later stages when we don't need, so that we don't need to wait that long for every test render. So all of that is done. Oh yeah, reflection, just a tiny bit, 0.8 should be fine. So that's our ground moss, right? So what we can do with this is, what can we do with this? Do we just use a different kind of a noise map? Maybe. Yeah, let's do it. So ground master, I'll add the ground moss here. So we have dirt, then leaves, then moss on top of it. And for the blending, I'll probably just use the same same texture that we used for the leaves for blending. So I'm just dragging and dropping it in. I'll start rendering like so. There we go. So I've started rendering, and then I'm going to go in here into this blend and I'll start switching up a few things. So I want the moss pattern to be maybe bigger, a little bit bigger, something like that. And maybe it needs to be a little bit softer in the way that it bleeds. So I will just increase the gap between the two materials so that it's a little bit softer. So now we get this kind of a effect of a little bit of moss, a little bit of ground, a little bit of gravel, and everything is kind of blending into this one material, right? So that is the material that we have. I think the size of it could be 0.8, something like this. Let's go up, and for ground leaves, for ground leaves, it can be, the size can be 0.6, something like that. Yeah, I think that's gonna do the trick. Whew. Okay, we're getting there. Keep in mind that this is just the base, right? This is just the base for it. We will add greenery and so on, so it's going to be much more lively. But as a base, I think this is fine. The moss is super dark though, so I want to fix that. I'll go back to ground moss here, and where I have the color of it, I can see that it's quite dark. I'm not sure if I need the ambient occlusion on the moss. So I'm just going to, because it darkens the image quite a bit, so I'll clear the color and I'll just add just the moss, just the albedo color here without the ambient occlusion. Like that. It's freaking out now. That's fine. Let me stop the render and render again. Every time when it's freaking out, just stop the render it again, and it should be fine. So now it's a little bit more balanced in terms of color. I think that looks fine. Yeah, that looks okay. Okay, so this is what we have. And that is our ground material, and we are going to stick with it. So now let's take a look at everything and how everything renders out. Oh, by the way, the landscape, right, that you see here, see how I made the landscape? It's basically like a bowl. This is to cut away the horizon line so that we don't see the horizon line. That's just basically it. Let's jump to exterior 1, hit that render button, see how this is going to turn out. Okay. I mean, it's still bad. It's still pretty bad, but it's getting there. Little by little, we are getting there. So this is how it looks like right now. That's fine. I wonder if we call it a day with, if we do call it a day with this tutorial right here, because texturing, like adding textures, does take a while. So you need time to be able to add textures to all of your elements, all of your materials. One thing that I will do though, that yeah, one thing that I will for sure do is add chamfering, because there needs to be a little bit of a bling here to make this more lively. So let me stop the render here. Let me jump into perspective view. Perspective. Disable all of the layers, or hide all of the layers, including the base, and only enable the shed. I will want to add a little bit of bling bling here, and also, and only the top of the shed, and also, or maybe not just the top, maybe these guys as well. Frames, where are the frames? Frames, there we go, these guys. So I want to chamfer the frames here so that they have a little bit of a corner, and also I want to chamfer the roof here. So for the frames, I will probably just do, these are not complex, so I can just do chamfer edge, next chamfer distance, that is 1 millimeter. I will do something a little bit more, like 3 millimeters. I think that's going to do the trick. Select all of these, enter, enter. And it's gonna take a little bit of time to do. It's not like it's super duper fast. Also, I'm recording. Let's just give it some time. There we go. So now it's done. And if I zoom in, how can I show you? I'll just put a point there and zoom into the point. Out a little bit. You can see the chamfer on the frame. It's not a lot, but it's going to do a lot of good for us. And I'll do the same thing for these guys. So let me isolate them and chamfer edge, bam, enter, enter. So all of this will get 3 millimeter chamfer. There's an option where you can do, in the properties, where you can do edge softening, and that kind of works, but I really prefer just having it hard coded into the geometry for rendering purposes. Just faster for me. I'm not even going to show you that option. Okay, back here, render. Hello? So there's no bling here, and hopefully some bling bling is going to show up. Let's just see. No bling bling is showing up. Story of my life. Come on. Come on. Okay. Stop this. Let's zoom in closer. It's just the lack of geometry. Let's render out this view. Not the lack of geometry, lack of resolution, right? So it doesn't work. Also, it's super dark. There we go. A little bit better. Give it some time. And I just want to render out, while this is doing, actually I can show you a few tips and tricks. So here in the render view, you have these options to save the file, and also to render, like follow the mouse. The render will follow the mouse. So when you have this selected, wherever you put your mouse, that part is going to have a higher, it's going to render out faster. Let's see it like that, right? So that is really helpful when you just want to render out small bits and check whether or not they are whether or not they work, right? In certain cases. Oh yeah. here, right? There's a little bit of bling happening here. Thank God. Okay, so that's good. So it does work. So we have that going. There's also region render. So I've disabled the follow mouse button and I'm enabling the region render, where I can just kind of drag a region around and it's now going to render out only this part. And then when I want to not just render out this part, I can just click on it again and it's going to kind of continue on rendering the rest of the image. That's also quite nice. Not much of an effect, but maybe it's worth it. We'll see. Either way, we have the materials. What else can I show you about the materials? Blending. Trees will come in later. How you apply textures, I showed you that. Rendering. I can show you one last thing before we finish up today. And that is going to be purely for the newest version of the users that use the newest version of Rhino and Vray. So Vray 5 has this option for light generator, which is super useful, and it's basically this icon right here, the light generator icon. So if you have the newest version, it's quite nice. But I will show this in a separate file. So I will just save this file because I don't want to mess up the light in this particular file. I'll just show you what it does in a separate one. Let me just save this file real quick. And by real quick, I mean it's going to take a little bit of time. And then I'll show you what light generator does. While it's doing that, I can kind of talk about it for a bit. So light generator gives you options of how you can light the scene, and it generates X amount of light conditions. X meaning you choose how many, by randomly, like by default. And you kind of just then choose, oh, I like this one. So it gives you small previews of that scene. It's super helpful when you don't know what you want and you kind of just want to investigate the model and investigate, possible lighting solutions for the model. So it's really useful for that, but not much else, not much else at all. So I'm going to show you that, and then we'll call it a day. Come on, please. This is awkward. I'm not sure if I should pause the video or if we should continue with the video. Did you do it? Yes, you did it. Okay, good. So this is saved. I will just create a new file real quick. Yeah. No template, whatever. And I'll just really quickly create some sort of a, sort of architectural piece, which is going to be wonderful and beautiful, and you're gonna love it. Something like that, and that needs to be much smaller. Something like that. Maybe that's rotated. Maybe that's rotated not 90 degrees, but something like this. Boolean union, shell. Remove that. Which one? Remove that and that. Enter. Okay, so we have this kind of a building. Let's call it a building. I don't know how to call it, but let's call it a building. And I can show you a few things with this building, with this like kind of default building. The first one is the infinite plane, Vray infinite plane. So it's this icon right here. If I press it, it just happens. It just creates an infinite plane, and it doesn't look infinite, right? But the thing is that you can't have infinite geometry in Rhino viewport, so we can scale it down and we can make it super small. But when we render it out, when we render it out, you can see that it's infinite in size, right? So that's how it works. And basically what we can do is we can find, let's say, so it's this is just to be able to select and choose the height for that infinite plane, right? Adding textures to it is hell, by the way, so don't do that. Don't add textures to it. You can add like color and material, but no textures, no images. So rendering out. I need to choose a light, right? I can do show light generator, like that. It's going to open up a light generator window for me, and I have no idea where, oh, there it is. And it's gonna check for updates, of course. Yeah, there we go. And here it's asking us, would we like to generate lights for exterior or for the interior? For the exterior, please, right? So I choose that. Then it's gonna ask us, what kind of light source do we have? I already talked about the light sources. We have sunlight or HDR image. So I can choose sunlight. It's gonna ask us for altitude variations. I'll say 12. Azimuth variations, or yeah, we can only do 9 and 18, huh? Okay, let's do a quick one. It will it shows how many variants it's gonna generate right here. So let's do like 4 and 6, 24 variants. Thumbnail size, whatever, 160 is fine. Load. No, not load, not load, generate. Just click on the generate button. Or not. What the hell? Load? Why can't I generate it? What the hell? Oh, that's a new one. Are we missing something here? Wait a minute. Oh, it's generating them. That's my bad. So I already clicked on it and it's generating. So let me stop. Let me stop the generation, and apparently I messed it up. So we do get that generate button and back to sun and sky. And if I click on it, yeah, now it's generating. So sorry, that was my bad. I was already running a render and it couldn't generate, but now it is, right? So now it's basically generating from this point of view, different light scenarios for our model. And most of them seem to be in the evening. Why are they in the, oh, never mind. One pops up that's not in the evening. And basically it's just going to kind of keep generating it until we press stop or until it reaches 24 variants. So I'll just say, well, I like this one, right? I like this one. So I'll just double click on it or click on it, and that's it. It created light generated dome with the, if I expand this, it has the sky texture here, and it has the Rhino document sun attached to it. So it has like generated everything. And now if I run the render, it's going to have that kind of light condition for us. So it's a very good way of how to research different light conditions automatically. I can also reset and go to exterior again and choose HDRI, and I can choose to generate the variants here. And now it's generating the same thing, only with an HDRI image, right? And that's kind of neat and dandy, and it's, I think it's cool. I find it cool. Okay, so stop that. And if I select this now, it's just going to override the lighting generation dome. And if I press render, it's just going to render out the HDRI version that I have just selected, right? Which is nice. By the way, HDRI lighting takes longer to render, just so that you know. Okay, that is it. I think that is it. So the task now is just to apply all of the materials, get all of the furniture that you want into your scene, get all of the textures and so on from the internet, anywhere from the internet, and yeah, just start applying the materials. We'll continue on with this, with not this model, with the previous model. We'll continue on with it in the next tutorial. Bye.